Nice to see all of you in person. I know I've worked with a number of you already and met a lot of you on Zoom last time I spoke last spring. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm Alexandra. I'm a law school admissions expert. I'm an attorney. And what I get to do now is help you guys do what I did and do it better and bigger and help you get into all the law school and all your law school dreams and goals. So today we're going to focus on some specifics, particularly the personal statement. Last time I did kind of an admissions overview. We'll talk a little bit about that, but we'll dive into the personal statement. If you guys have any questions at any time, feel free to stop so I can take a breather anyways. But if not, we'll do Q&A at the end and I'll stay after if you guys have any questions. But this is me, this is my company, A+ Admissions. So I work with students all over the country, getting them into their top law school choices, whether that be big law schools, small law schools, regionals, all sorts of things like that. I work with a number of you already and you're already on your way, which is great. Law school, applying to, obviously you guys are here, you're taking the time out on a Monday night. I know you probably have a million other things to do. Congratulate yourselves for showing up and wanting to get started on this process, because I know from personal experience how difficult it can be. And I work with students on specifically their anxieties of how this can be really difficult. We all come at the law school admissions game in a very different state, whether you're freshman just looking into it, senior getting ready to apply, someone who's already applied, right? We're coming in with all different expectations, all different worries and fears of, how do I get in? What about the LSAT? What the heck do I write a personal statement on? What do they even want me to say in a personal statement? That's understandable, right? Give yourself some credit for being here, showing up, taking the time to use these resources, right? Even the mock trial and getting all the pre-law groups together on campus. You never know who you're going to meet, who's in the same boat as you and has a really great LSAT prep course they're using, and you get to talk to them about it, right? Using all the resources, using me, using people who are here to help is going to relieve some of these anxieties. You probably have a number of these. So these are what I call my top 10. These are the top 10 fears that a lot of students are having right now, getting into law school and applying to law school. Obviously, LSAT scores, GPAs, big ones. You guys are working hard right now for a great GPA. Personal statements are really high up there, which is why I like doing the personal statement workshops, because those are usually people's, I have no idea what to write about, or is my topic even right? The last 5-6 months, I've probably helped students write about 60 personal statements. So I know what's in them. I know what works. I know what doesn't. I personally got a full ride to law school. I didn't pay. I teach students to do the same thing. All these things come into play when that happens. You can probably see a few that are on there that maybe relate to you. Asking parents for help, that's a big thing too, right? We're in college. Anytime you call your parents, they're probably like, okay, what do you need? How much money do you need? Right? Like that's immediately what they're expecting. Getting into law school and applying for law school is another big ask as well. So these are all things I help students with. Make sure at the end, there's going to be a QR code. I love giving out free resources. Anything of these anxieties, anything in addition to these anxieties, I'm happy to help you figure out exactly what that is, how we can address those concerns. I have resources and programs that go into each of these with students. And then I do full comprehensive programs with students that include all of these and more. So what does the admission cycle look like right now? You guys, who's a freshman? Any freshmen? Awesome. Sophomores? Juniors? And people I'm surprised are here. Seniors? Nice. Okay. We're almost out the door. For those, no one has applied yet, right, to law school in the room? Okay. The mock trial, one who runs the mock trial, she already applied. So a lot of students will apply and they're, if you want to go straight in, you're applying your senior year. But this is what the admissions cycle is looking like right now, which is just going to give you guys an overview picture of what to start expecting, how to start preparing. You guys are doing the right thing by being here now because you're starting to prepare early, right? You're starting to check off some of the boxes that are going to have to be checked eventually. So top 15 law schools, average acceptance rate is nothing, basically, right? You're working against some of the most competitive students in the country. You guys are amongst those. It's a great school to be coming from. Knowing that landscape, GPAs are soaring through the roof. That's okay if you don't have these, right? Because the thing to remember is that law school admissions is a holistic process, right? Your GPA and your LSAT are huge. Those are your pillars that your law school application is standing on. But you don't have to be this kind of a student to still get into law schools that are amazing. This application cycle, which it's fun talking to students who have applied this cycle, because this is the most competitive cycle experts we've ever seen in admissions. There's a couple factors that have come into play as to why that is. I can tell you more if you're interested, but this year in particular, 30% more students have applied to law schools. That's extremely competitive. It's GPAs are up, LSATs are up. Law schools are, even people who applied early in the cycle haven't heard back yet because there's just that many more students applying. It's competitive, right? You want to set yourself up now to get ahead. And then eventually, right, what we're all hoping to do is pass that California bar exam or a similar bar exam in another state, and choosing a school that's going to get you to pass about a 50% rate in California is going to be crucial, which is actually up from when I took it. It was like 42% when I took it. Okay, what are we looking at, right? These things you guys mostly know, right? Our hard skills are our GPA and our LSAT. Those are the pillars of our application. Our soft skills, our personal statement, diversity, school-specific essays, these are increasing, right? Even the smaller regional schools that used to not be that competitive are now asking for school-specific essays. Resumes, letters of recommendation, addenda, right? Looking into your transcripts, what are the red flags? And then here's something different that I work with my students on, because this is a huge part of law school in general, as well as afterwards, becoming an attorney, right? Becoming someone in the legal field, having the right mindset, having the right abilities to make those decisions that are really difficult, choosing why you're ready to go to law school, why you're even taking on such a very difficult endeavor, right? With all these competitive students, right? Choosing when you're ready and how you're going to do this is going to be really important. So about me, just so you guys know, I'm not any different than you are. This is me graduating from UCLA undergrad. So like some of you will have awesome pictures like this very soon in a couple months when you walk across stage. This is me graduating from law school. 4 years later, I took a 2-year gap year between undergrad and law school, which I can answer any questions about if you guys are thinking about that. And that's me getting sworn into the bar. So after you take the bar and you pass the bar and you wait 6 months to hear if you passed, you then have to do this really funny thing, getting sworn in, where you actually have to take an oath in front of someone who can authorize it. And then you're actually able to practice. So eventually that will all be you guys. If you stick to a good plan, if you start preparing early, if you understand your reasons why you're going to law school. This is possible to do, right? I didn't pay for law school. I got a full ride. I got offers from every school I applied to. There's a way to do this. And this is what I love to teach, right? This is what you guys can all learn how to do. I have students right now doing it. I have students that, like this student who just got about a 92% scholarship out of school, hearing back, and we're doing the fun math on how much she's not going to have to pay. So it's possible, it's fun, there's a way to do it right. But one of those major components is the personal statement. Huge, huge component, right? Because we can talk all day about LSATs and GPAs, and that's on you guys to get those scores, but it doesn't happen for everyone, right? I wasn't at the 75th percentile of all the schools I applied to, not even close. But how did I get that full ride? How do people get these amazing scholarships, get into schools that are above where they should? It's the rest of your package, which is why we're going to take so much time to think about the personal statement and to really, pay attention to what goes in it, what shouldn't go in it, who's your reader, right? We've heard that since we were in 5th grade, right? Who's your audience? Know your audience, right? This is a big time to know your audience. Who are the people who are reading your applications? What are they expecting in this personal statement? So we're just going to go over these basics, 5 basic topics that if you follow, you're going to do really well in your personal statement. If you understand the details, you're going to be able to write something that's unique, stands out, works against a super competitive cycle. And it's the same formula. I don't hide it. It's the same formula I work with my students on. It's the same formula that I followed. It's the same formula that experts teach. The basics, the purpose, why are we even having to do this? How do we get started? what should your narrative be, right? We're telling a story. We're not just writing about the baseline of who we are and why we're choosing law school, and some do's and don'ts, which are always interesting, and you'd be surprised at how many essays I get, which are full of them, and then we start from scratch. Okay, the basics. What does it look like? What does a personal statement even look like at all? What are we hoping to get out of a personal statement? What is a law school looking for? It's a really short written document, which is interesting because it plays such a huge role. So some schools are only asking for 2 pages, some schools ask for 3. Rarely do we see anything over 3 pages. So super short, super to the point, have to create a lot of impact. These are the basic format to it, double space, 12-point font. You guys are all doing that in college anyways. But format matters, right? Format, getting it right with what the school is asking for is going to play a big role. Why do I have to? What is the rationale for an admission officer when they are reading your application and they're reading your personal statement? What are the things that they're looking for? What should you write your personal statement on in general, right? These are the things that an admission officer and admissions team is really hoping to get out of your personal statement. So first is insight. What's your uniqueness? What are your life experiences? What are your motivations for law? And not having to say this flat out, not just saying, I want to go to law school because I'm going to be a tax attorney. And I really like numbers. I was an econ major. That's that. Right? That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for depth, who you are, how you got to where you are, why you're applying to their law school. You want to make them feel unique. Insight, readiness, professional skills, leadership potential, right? This all plays a role with you guys now, choosing clubs like this, getting leadership roles in organizations, showing a law school that you have the professional skills to be in a professional school. Law school is filled with students like yourselves who are coming straight from undergrad, but it also has a lot of professionals who are in their 2nd or 3rd career. You're going into a professional school. You want to be able to show an admission officer, and they want to get from your personal statement that you're ready for an atmosphere that's unlike anything else. It's professional, it's corporate in a way, it's networking events, it's being able to talk to professors, right? It's a whole new aspect of school. They want to see if you're ready. Red flags are also looking for, why should we not admit you, right? This is a great essay to tell a school, oh, your numbers are great, your LSAT's above our score, your GPA is fantastic, oh, your resume looks great. Wait a second. We don't want you because we read your personal statement and there's red flags everywhere. We can see that you don't make decisions very well. We can see that your communication skills are maybe off. Maybe we see that you're a little too arrogant. Maybe we see that you're leaning on things that actually aren't going to play a role in our community, right? So they're looking for red flags, but there's a way to turn those into green flags, which is what comes in. So what's the question, right? What is a law school even asking? This is the first piece of the puzzle, is looking at what schools are even asking for in their personal statement. The good news is as if you'll read them, they're very general. Law schools are asking for usually the same thing. It's just a very general way of saying, tell me about yourself. Tell me why we should admit you. Tell me why you want to go to law school here. It's so vague that it gives people hesitation on what to write about. What should I say? Should I just talk about my summer internship at a law firm? Because that seems really relevant. Should I talk about the fact that my parents are lawyers? That seems relevant, right? There's very little direction here. So getting the guidance on what exactly you should say is really important. Any questions now? I'll take a pause. No? What's everyone's major? Are we mostly political science?
I'm business.
Business. Okay, great. Anything else other than justice? Criminal justice. Very cool. You as well? Criminal justice. What are you? International security and conflict resolution. Very cool. Any English majors? No. Are we all writing a lot of papers all the time? Okay. Reading and writing a lot. This is a different type of writing, right? All of a sudden we have to become creatives. We have to be able to tell a story that's about ourselves, we have to be able to brainstorm in a way that we haven't done before, because as a criminal justice or international relations or business major, you're researching for the most part, right? You have an assignment that you have to research. You're writing a pretty academic paper. When's the last time we wrote something creative about ourselves and said, here's who I am, here's where I come from, and here's why you should like me enough and think I'm professional enough to not only go to your school, but to be awarded a scholarship, right? It's confusing because we haven't been taught how to do this. It's confusing and it's different, and it's not, you can't research yourself online and write a research paper. Okay, so how do we get started? What are some things we can ask ourselves now, because this is a strange creative writing piece? How do we start asking ourselves the questions in order to get the brainstorming going, right? Some students come to me and they already have drafts of topics and they really think that they're on the right path, and I still give them these questions. And I'm still asking them to rethink where they are right now and where they want to go. Obviously, why are you interested in a career in law? Why law school? You saw how difficult it is to get in. I can tell you how difficult it is to be in law school, or to be an attorney, or to pass the bar. But you guys, you know that. You're not scared of that. If you were, you wouldn't be here. So why are you choosing it? What's the reason for you? What's your personal motivation? What makes you when you go home and you say, wow, I can't wait to do that? Because it's competitive, it's scary, but it doesn't scare me, right? I'm ready to do it. I'm excited. Why? What experiences have confirmed this desire? So this part's interesting, asking about experiences, right? Reflecting on actual specific things that have happened in our lives, or moments, or big events while in school. And you might think, well, I'm not that unique. I don't really have anything to say. I've just been a political science major. I was myself, and I went to some club meetings, and it took a while to pull out experiences that are actually going to shape your essay. What qualities and skills make you a strong future lawyer, right? These are qualities, these are uniqueness. This is pieces of our personality actually getting into. It's interesting, some of my psychology majors really hit on this a little bit harder, which is great because they're used to asking other people these questions, right? What is your personality type? What are the things that motivate you internally, right? What makes you a strong future lawyer is asking kind of the same question, right? What kind of lawyer are you hoping to be? Do you like corporate law? Are you interested in that? Are you interested in being more on the civil litigation side, or working with a community, working with an NGO, right? These are all things that are probably coming from some sort of personal insight that maybe we just haven't thought of yet. What life experiences have allowed you to develop those traits, right? Again, experiences. What has actually happened? Because as you'll see, and if you read personal statements that are actually good, you'll see that you've crafted a story and an actual narrative rather than just a simple, here are the things I've done, here are the things I'm going to do, right? You end up crafting an actual creative piece. And again, 2 to 3 pages, it's not that much to work with there, but you still have to tell a story. You still have to captivate someone. So how do we do that? How do we actually structure a story? Any questions? Structuring this kind of narrative, like we said, it's not like a research paper. It's usually not like a essay we've written in college before. So how do we do this? How do we start structuring it? Well, this is no surprise, right? Introduction with impact. Creating your story and knowing your audience. Understanding the admissions committee behind the applications, right? You saw this year, 30% more students have applied. That means 30% more applications on the desks of all of these admission committees, which can be anywhere from 3 to 5 to 6 people at a law school reading these. It's not like it's a room full of 30 admission officers and they each have 2 to read a night. They're reading 20 to 30 of these a day, right? That's crazy. That's competitive. How do we make yours stand out in that theoretical stack, right? It's all digital now. But knowing your audience, knowing what they're going to want to see, captivating them from the start. Next is developing a theme. So again, we don't have that much time and that much in the personal statement. They're probably only going to read it for maybe at best 5 minutes. So how do we create a theme? that comes across enough to show what your personal interests are, who you are, what's your background, your upbringing, those experiences we talked about, right? And then conclusion, right? This is probably one of the most important pieces that students usually forget about because we focus so much on the content, right? Here's a great thing about me. Here's an experience I had that's led me to where I'm going today. But then they forget to tie that all in. And think about it, if you were reading 30 of these in one day, you're either hooked on the first couple sentences or you're not, and then you drag through the middle and then you read the conclusion. And you then see, okay, maybe there's something I missed here with this student. Make sure you're always thinking about that. Okay, here are some fun good starts and bad starts. So what I mean by this is literally the introduction, the first sentence of these personal statements. So for a lot of us, we might think, well, I'm not that unique maybe. I don't have a story like this that comes to mind, but that's the difference, is that each of you has a story inside of you. Each of you has a story that's led you to where you are. You just don't know how to tell it yet. So these are some good starts, right? They're captivating. If I read one of these, right, my hands trembled and my legs went numb as I stood up to read the eulogy I had written. If I read that, I'd probably want to know where this person was. Why were they reading a eulogy? Who was it for? Right, all of a sudden I'm intrigued and I'm going on to the next paragraph, interested to see what their theme is. I want to see why they're choosing law school. Some bad starts that are common. Really common. The amount of times I ask a student, why do you want to go to law school? And they said, well, I've always really liked to argue. Great. That's awesome. That's a great reason to go to law school. Let's not tell them that because they've heard it 10,000 times. And or a quote that's really general, something that we've all seen, and you think it's a way that's going to relate to you, but in the end, that doesn't tell them anything about you. That tells them something about your parents. That from the age of 5, I don't know about you guys, but I can't remember anything that happened when I was 5. Right? It's a common thing to say to people, but it's not the right direction, right? You've already turned off your audience. So what do we do and what do we not do for your story? First, we want to understand the prompt. So even though that UCLA versus Chapman question type, right, even though those were really vague and very similar to each other and very much like, tell me about yourself, there's still little keys in there that we want to think about. Every school is also going to ask for something different, whether it's a word limit, page limit, thought change, question type that also says, and tell me why you want to go to this school, is different than a school that just says, tell me about yourself, right? The small aspects of what they're asking. Getting personal, getting really deep into who you are and what your story is. It's a personal statement, they mean that. Telling a story like we've talked about now, being concise, being quick, we only have 2 pages. Connecting to your reason why, right? Connecting to those questions in the beginning. Picking one theme, not talking about a lot of different areas of law or a lot of different experiences we've had. Picking one in particular or 2 that relate to each other and create a nice timeline. What not to do. Number 1, reiterate your resume. This happens a lot. We're proud of ourselves. We're proud of our resumes. We're proud of all the work that we've done in undergrad or during our summers. And you should be. And you should have a resume that works specifically for law schools. It's different than a job resume completely. And we can talk about that, but not reiterating it. They've already read it. They already know where you worked and what you did, but there are ways to incorporate that. Cliches and generic content, right? Quotes that are not really related to you. Overemphasis on achievements, lack of authenticity, going over the page limit, right? Lawyers are super strict on the little things, right? And you'll find this out when you're a lawyer. If you go over a word limit or page limit that a judge has assigned you, they won't even read it. Your case might get thrown out. It's that strict. So law schools are starting, you're gonna start this now in the application process. Writing about someone else. This one is one thing I see a lot, and it doesn't mean you've written a story for someone else. It means you either have had someone in your life that's been an inspiration or has contributed to why you are choosing law school, which is common and which is a great story to tell. However, writing about them and using them as the focal point and talking about their attributes, well, they're super, they're incredibly kind, they're generous, they're thoughtful, they're motivated to help others. Great, are they applying? I want to know that about you. Are you motivated to help others? Are you kind and caring? Are you generous? And I want to hear that through your story, not by just telling me. Okay, that's the end of the personal statement information. I'll stay around for questions. We have time. But scan, I'll give us some time before we Q&A. Take a second, only takes a second to fill out. I will personally send you something if you let me know what it is that you need help with. I know that was quick for the personal statement. Obviously, we can't spend a ton of time on all of this. But any of those topics I talk to students about for days and hours and all sorts of amounts of time. So if you have questions about any of it, this is the time to let me know. What was your name? Sorry.
I'm Alex.
Alex, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Would you recommend any strategies going into writing a personal statement? I'm asking this because I had a hard time writing my admissions essay for colleges.
Yeah.
It's kind of why I went the community college to transfer route.
Yeah.
Directly skips that
It
requirement
does,
for
it
some
does.
schools.
Uh-huh.
So, I'm like, as you're speaking, I was kind of churning through some ideas and I was like, I don't like that, don't like that, don't like that. I wouldn't say I'm a particularly, sore thumb in the sea of students here. Like I don't stick out too much. I don't over participate
Sure.
in any particular
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
accent. Compared to some students who speak 7 languages or can.
Okay, they're president of 6 clubs.
Exactly.
And they
So for
already
someone,
saved a town in Africa.
I can't donate half my income to some
Yeah.
community event. Aside, would you recommend any strategies going into this for someone who is, let's say, more average? Like, is there a
Yes.
quality and a characteristic that you find valuable that can be emphasized for someone, maybe not like me, but someone in my position who has trouble writing essays about themselves, writing
Yeah.
creatively? I consider myself more analytical. I can speak literally.
Right.
I can't hype
Yeah.
myself up too much, especially to a bunch of old white guys and suits.
Right, right. That's a great question, right? How do we, if we feel like we are in the normal boat, right, of I've done everything right, I'm coming from a great school, how do I make this essay stand out when I don't have something crazy that has happened? Or a lot of the times people feel like I have to have something tragic that has happened, right? That's a common thing. I think for even getting an undergrad, we feel like that personal statement has to be like some sort of a trauma or some sort of like a big life event. It absolutely doesn't. I will say I was very much that average student. I, had a couple clubs I was part of. I had a couple internships. I tried to do everything right. I would say the biggest thing to start thinking about is working through those questions and starting to think about what your experience is in relationship to why we're choosing law school, which can go into like literally our personality, right? Like I've always been someone who's been a leader. I've always been someone who's wanted to have a lot of options for myself. One of those things was if I got a JD and if I passed the bar and if I became an attorney, I would have a lot of options, whether it was working in any field of law, whether it was owning my own business, whether it was working for another business, whether it was, anything, right? That was my motivation. And that came from a place really of how I was raised. It came from some childhood experiences of how I was raised, how I was taught. what I thought of education in general that motivated me to make those decisions. So that is the life experience that I've pulled on, right? It doesn't sound like anything profound. It's not like, oh, I traveled to, South America when I was 6 and I stayed to help build a community. Like, no, but my experiences personally developed my personality, which led me to choosing this career path. And that's more of what they want to see. A big thing they want to see is maturity, right? All those things I went through, right? Insight into who you are. Are you ready to go to law school? Are you a professional? Are you mature enough to handle this? Your LSAT and GPA tell them if you are academically ready. For the most part, we can argue that, which I agree that LSAT's shit. Anyone that's taken it. Does that say we're ready academically? Maybe. But our personal statement is really going to show if our personality is ready to handle such a difficult adventure, right? 3 years of law school is not easy. It's not only professional environment, but it's also mentally very challenging, which I think they want to make sure that you can handle it academically, but can you handle it mentally? Are you someone who's strong enough to go through a very difficult program? And I think those are some things that you can pull out of yourself personally. I think that's what they're really looking for. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Awesome.
So do you recommend like the personal experience? Because whatever that experience is, like we want to focus more on the characteristics that we developed out of it rather than like the association it has to do with law. So like, for example, you'd rather like list like an experience that taught you like resilience and determination rather than like an experience that that's like associated with like law and stuff.
Yeah, good question. So remind me your name.
Santa, like Santa Claus.
So the question is, do we want to write about an experience that shows our personality and maybe determination or motivation for choosing law rather than an experience that is telling us to choose law, which could be like an internship at a law firm or my parents are attorneys or I grew up in this environment. If you have those experiences, which a lot of people don't, which is also fine. If you've never worked in a law firm, if you don't know anyone who's gone to law school, parents aren't attorneys, that was me. I'm the first attorney in my family. I navigated this myself. I eventually had internships that helped with that experience. If you don't have that experience, yes, number one, focus on an experience that shows your personality first. For students that have experiences in law or in the field in general, or a specific experience that leads them to law school, maybe I worked at a nonprofit organization and I saw attorneys who helped children, right? There's an experience that I can maybe connect to. Then you can tie both in. Then you want to bring both sides together. If you don't have any sort of hard founding experience to why you're choosing law, yes, focus more on your resilience, your internal personality as to why you're choosing law school, and use an experience for that. But if you have the real experience, there's a way to bring that together and to really create a beautiful story. Does that help?
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
I know it's the personal statement seminar, but you mentioned the difference between a law school resume and a professional resume. I was just hoping you could touch on a couple of different.
Yeah, good question. So a law school resume, and it ties in because it's one of the soft skills, right? There's only so many there's 2 hard skills, and there's anywhere from 6 to 8 soft skills, depending on if you need addendum and those kinds of things. One of them is your resume. So your resume can play a big role in your personal statement as well. They kind of go hand in hand for that reason. The resume needs to be a law school application resume, not a job application resume. The difference is that an admission officer is going to use your resume as essentially almost like an index for your application, which means that they are reading your resume as an outline to the rest of your application. So they can see, you can use it to your advantage. If you have things on your resume, you don't have to talk about them in your personal statement, right? It gives you a way to explain a specific job or internship or family experience, right? I have students even who write as their experience, relevant experience, taking care of a family member. Well, you wouldn't put that in a job application resume because it doesn't have to do with that job. But to a law school, it shows what they've used their time with for the last 2 years. right? They don't have a job or an internship, but they've had to take care of their family, or they've been the provider, or they've been a mom for the last 3 years, and that's what they've been spending their time doing. So it can physically look different, the format looks different. But it can also play into, if you have something in there, you can touch on it in your personal statement in a bigger way. You expand on what you couldn't have done in your resume. So format looks different for one, way different. And there is a specific format that should be used. And the bigger thing is knowing what's gone into your last 4 years while an undergrad. Don't put anything about high school in there. I'll give you that tip right now. Take out your high school diploma, like wherever you graduated from, GPA, all that doesn't need to be on there. It's college and above. We want to show what you spent your time doing. That help?
Yeah, thank you.
Remind me your name.
Pierre.
Pierre. Any other questions? Yeah.
Kind of going off of like Pierre's question about like the resume, would you say it's more like a CV or like do we have to like keep it to 1 page? Like,
Yeah, you definitely don't have to keep it to 1 page depending on what your work experience is. So everyone's different, right? Everyone has different experiences, both personal and job related. It should not be in the form of a cover letter. We want to make sure that every bullet point is using action verbs, explaining something specific. Right, it should not be long form. There should be no summaries, right? All those things which jobs can incorporate, right? You can set up for a job. Also, make sure you're putting all your experience. Right? Working at the subway on campus. When you think that that has nothing to do with law, why would I put it there? It again shows your time, shows what you've been doing, shows that you can handle organization, time management, planning, all those things. Does that help?
yeah, thank you.
Remind me your name.
Trudy.
Trudy. Nice to meet you. Any other questions? Do you guys all have class today? Did, right? You guys are the one group of people who didn't have today off. Yeah, let's be tired. Any other thoughts? If not, please reach out. I will reach out to each one of you if you filled that out. And help you with your journeys to law school. I know some of you are already on your way, well on your way to doing this, well on your way to applying, which is exciting. But any other questions? I will stick around if you have personal questions and want to ask me alone, but thank you all. You guys are doing amazing. Keep using the resources that are at your hand. You guys are at a great school. So thank you.